Thank you very much. You. Good having you on the program. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the program. It's the Vicki McKenna Show. What do you do if you find out that a teacher in your daughter's school is communicating with her secretly and grooming her? What do you do? You know, you call the police, right? You call the school. You do what, you know, maybe back in the day, you'd go find the teacher, if you know what I mean. But that's what you do. You go through all the right mechanisms to protect your kid. Well, a parent in the Kenosha School District did all that, and ultimately, nothing happened. I have Kevin Mathewson standing by on the phone to talk about this case, because only you have done the extensive reporting on this case for KenoshaCountyEye.com. Good to have you on the show. Thanks very much for joining me.
Vicki, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me today.
So, if you can paint the picture. As I understand, this was ultimately, it began with an anonymous tip that a teacher was having inappropriate private communication. He was 29. She was 12. So a 29-year-old teacher was having inappropriate private communication with a 12-year-old girl. And so if I could ask you to sort of, you know, from the 50,000-foot view, explain the summary of the story.
Sure. So this girl was 12 years old. I call her Holly. That's a pseudonym. So Holly was 12 years old, and she really liked her teacher. His name is Christian Enright. And in fact, this story hits close to home because my kids both had Mr. Enright. They go to the same school as Holly. So my kids liked him, but he was always a little handsy, hugging, and sometimes it's appropriate, but sometimes it just seems odd, and it seemed odd to a lot of people. But what happened is Holly started to develop a relationship that far exceeded what you would expect a teacher, student, or any type of mentor relationship to be like. And when I say that, I'm talking about 600 snap text messages in a 5-day period after midnight, something that is wholly inappropriate at all levels. And those discussions turned to sexual in nature, dreams in another world, we would be together, just stuff that I can't even say on your program, but wholly inappropriate things from like you said, a 29-year-old and a 12-year-old that just didn't make sense. And the school district failed this little girl. The only organization that really wanted to help this girl was the Kenosha Police Department. They investigated this case for 2 solid months and devoted one detective only to this case. That's how serious they were about it. And they're also as serious about it that they're starting a new unit in the Kenosha Police Department just for this type of behavior. And the police chief told me that just a couple of days ago, because they're sick of seeing this. And in this case, if you read the last line of the police report, it's very clear. This detective went prosecutor shopping. And for those who don't know what that means, is it's kind of like when you ask mom if you can sleep over at a friend's house. She says no, so you ask dad. This police officer, according to his report, went prosecutor shopping and tried to get somebody to charge this deranged teacher, and they all said no. So this case was closed, and I'm quoting from the police report, insufficient evidence. So I ran the story, and immediately it blew up because it ticked off a lot of parents in the district and kids and families of kids. And then I'm told now that the case is now reopened, that there was new evidence. So I don't know what that means, but
new evidence.
It shouldn't take a story on the internet to get these prosecutors to do their job. But
I had a chance to look at the police report, and I'm not going to disclose most of what's in the police report. There's a lot of evidence in the police report, right?
Yes.
Let's just say there is an overabundance of evidence in the police report suggesting minimally grooming, right? That's what it suggests in the police report. So a prosecutor looking at this police report would say, maybe there isn't like a sexual assault violation because it doesn't appear that it rose to that level. It appeared that it was grooming, not the actual. Although I don't know, but there is a statute you can charge. If you are interested in charging a case like this. But so what is the explanation from the DA's office, and what is the explanation from the school to allow the teacher to continue on?
And the school, I requested a list of all their law firms that they retain. I think it was about 16. I'm not talking little mom and pop law firms. I'm talking about Milwaukee area law firms. They're charging $400 an hour. So the school district always relies on these bad opinions from their lawyers. Oh, we can't talk about it. We can't talk about it. But guess what? The day after my story aired, all of a sudden I got an email from my principal, the same guy who would not cooperate with the investigation of his 12-year-old student being groomed, saying, oh, there's been an issue at school, more than 2 months after the fact. So the lawyers give bad legal advice. They say you can't talk about it. I think the parents of this school, myself included, should have been notified immediately that this teacher was put on leave for allegations that are disturbing. And like you said, there's a voluminous amount of evidence. The police report itself is 101 pages, but the detective, I'm told, has, and this is something that I can disclose, I've been in contact with the family, there's hundreds and hundreds of Snapchat records that were received by Snapchat. So this is not something that can be forged or manipulated. These are records obtained via search warrant from Snapchat. So this is evidence that it can't be refuted. This is his own words. You have pictures of his genitals. You have pictures of him in underwear, pictures of him in a towel. So you know well, Vicki, that police and prosecutors can get very creative when it comes to charging people. And if you look at just the definition of disorderly conduct, it talks about indecent acts. I don't know much more indecent you can be about telling a 12-year-old that you look at a picture and, touch yourself. That's as indecent as you get. So if you or I were a prosecutor, we'd probably try to charge him with 100 counts of disorderly conduct. And I think there's a lot of jurors out there would find him guilty of those. And then you could talk about at least some jail time, right?
See, I don't
but
know.
in this case,
do you really think it's the lawyers? Do you really think it's the lawyers that were telling the administration? Or is this just the administration that has a default position to do absolutely nothing until they're forced to do something? Because that seems to be what's going on across Wisconsin schools. It's the same with the... Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, they lean on those decisions to protect themselves. But at the end of the day, a lawyer's opinion is just that. They give the opinion, and then the administrators decide based on that opinion. When your lawyer gives you an opinion that you know is bad, you don't listen to it. They have no obligation to do what their lawyers tell them. So in this case, it's just an administration, and this is not the first time. This Friday, Nathan Gardner is going to be sentenced for sexual contact with a 16-year-old at Indian Trail, and that's where my daughter goes to high school. So these cases are hitting home to me, and the prosecutor is going to recommend 10 years in prison for this. I think he's 26, and the victim was 15. It happens more than you want to know, and these kids are just they're being failed. They're not being protected at every step of the process. The school district administration, the DA's office, even the division, the DPI, they say, well, we can't take action unless he's convicted of a crime. Really?
That's nonsense. Of course they can. So, Kevin, if you were a teacher and you popped off and you went all MAGA in the classroom, they'd take care of you. They would. And DPI would rubber stamp that. So that's a lie. That's a complete lie. DPI, can say that all they want. What are the policies that are in place at the Kenosha schools, at the middle school? I mean, do they have a list of policies that a parent can point to protect their child from predation, that they can lean on to say, my child needs help? Or is the policy at the Kenosha, Unified School District just, you're on your own, and we're not going to talk about it because it's a personnel matter?
No, the policy is very blunt, right? And the policy is teachers communicate with students only about school activity and using the school email system. That way it can be tracked by administrators and parents. But in this case, you're using Snapchat. As you know, it deletes information. And the principal and the assistant principal allowed this girl, Holly, to go back to her classroom with her phone. They didn't tell her parents. So what did she do? She did what every other scared 14-year-old would do. She thought maybe she was in trouble. She started erasing all these messages. By the time the mom got involved, a lot of this evidence had been destroyed. And I don't blame her. It's not her fault, but she was scared. Now I think she realizes that she didn't do anything wrong.
So the girl, your story explains this at KenoshaCountyEye.com. The girl was called into the principal's office. Mom doesn't even know about this. and she's sent back to class with her phone.
She sent back to class with her phone.
And that was how did the girl get to the principal's office? Was that based on the anonymous tip?
So here's the thing too: is they called her over. You know, the loudspeakers. They still have them. I didn't know they had them, but they called the girl's name over the loudspeakers, which I think it should have been treated a little more sensitively. But maybe I'm crazy. Maybe a whisper. Hey, we'd like to talk to you, Holly. But they called her name over the loudspeaker, so every kid eventually found out that she was the one involved in this, right? So her privacy was invaded. And mom was really ticked off. So mom called the school and said, get my daughter out of that school and you get that phone immediately, because her mom had the sense to realize there's going to be some evidence on there. And Christian's wife also teaches at the school. And obviously, she's blaming the victim. She's telling her students during school time that this little girl's a liar. And this little girl is in her class while she's saying this. So if you can imagine how insulting and how degrading that was. So this girl, I give her all the credit in the world, stood up, walked out of the classroom, went to the principal's office and said, I am not stepping foot in that woman's classroom ever again. And she didn't have to. So one of the good assistant principals there made it happen, and he gave her a different math teacher. So this girl she's a strong little girl, and I'm hoping that she's going to move past this, and she's going to grow up to be a strong woman, and she's not going to let this hamper her pursuit of happiness. I think she learned from this, and let's hope that this quote-unquote new evidence leads to some type of crime being committed. I hope this guy loses his teaching license, and there's jobs he can do, but it better not be a job where he's within 100 foot of a child.
So here's the thing. I don't think there is new evidence. I mean, I think that was pressure, and I think the 101-page police report's probably pretty sufficient. It's got a lot of stuff in it. And we'll see how that proceeds. What did Kenosha do after the decision by the DA to, quote, reopen the case? What did the school district do?
Is now aware of that, and that just gives them more ammunition, so to speak, to close their mouth, right?
Right.
Well, now it's open again, so now it's extra secret and extra sensitive, so we can't talk about it, and they like that. They like not having to be accountable to anybody.
I'm just going to say, I mean, school administrators, do they like take a class in how to behave like slime? I don't know. Unfortunately,
it's something like that.
Unfortunately, Kevin, I'm out of time. You can see the whole article. It's published at KenoshaCountyEye.com, easily linkable from the front page of the website, KenoshaCountyEye.com. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Good to have you on the program. We'll take a quick break.